welcome back to Dethroning Your Inner Critic. I'm Joanna Kleinman, and today I want to talk about one of the greatest paradoxes of reaching for the life that we truly want. And that is the more tightly we grip what we long for, the further away that it can sometimes feel. Now, before we begin this conversation, I want to be really clear about something. This is not about lowering your standards, and it's definitely not a conversation about not working hard, because the life that you want will absolutely require effort. It's going to require action, and it's going to require a lot of courage, and it's going to require you to step into discomfort again and again and again. I've worked with thousands of people over the last 3 decades, and there is one thing that they all have in common, and that is that there's something that they deeply want: a business, a career, a relationship, a bigger impact, more freedom, more fulfillment, a dream that they can't stop thinking about. And they're willing to work for it. They're willing to put the effort in. That's the key. And they're willing to learn, and they're willing to grow, and they're willing to take action, and they keep going. But here is what most people don't see. The struggle that they're all experiencing is not coming from the effort itself. It's actually coming from the energy that's underneath the effort. So what I mean by that is, are you taking action towards that life from inspiration or from fear? Are you taking action from possibility or from protection? Are you taking that action from the trust or from the belief that you need this outcome to happen in order for you to feel valued and worthy and in some way okay? Because 2 people can take the exact same actions, and one is moving from that energy of desperation and proving and striving, and the other one is moving from alignment. And both can look exactly the same. Both are actually participating in creating the life that they want. But one person is trying to use achievement and success and validation from other people and money and certainty and accomplishment to escape an emotional experience that they don't want to feel. And they truly believe that that achievement and success and approval and money and accomplishment and certainty is going to not make them feel the thing that they don't want to feel. And I work with so many people that actually have reached everything that they've set out to accomplish: the achievement, the success, the money, the title, and they still feel that way that they thought all that stuff would take away. So this is really important and incredibly powerful, because the actions look identical from the outside. But what we're talking about here is the internal experience that's completely different. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because the quality of your life is shaped far less by what you're pursuing, and it's shaped far more by the energy from which you're pursuing it. Now, when you are in that conditioned automatic mind, that mind doesn't really want you to dream. It doesn't really want you to keep reaching for the unknown. It wants safety and certainty. So that mind is not the mind that's in touch with your purpose and your potential and your true essence that you want to offer to the world. That mind doesn't care about your next level life, because that mind is only designed to want to protect you from emotional pain. And most people think that they're reaching for whatever it is that they're reaching for because that's what they want. But if you go deeper, usually the very thing that we want is the thing that we think is going to erase that feeling of not being good enough or being inadequate or somehow being a fraud or somehow not having what it takes or being less than. So I want you, listener, to think about this. Are you reaching for what you're reaching for because you think that experience is going to protect you in some way from rejection or feeling like a failure or that you're a disappointment or in some way feeling embarrassed or feeling ashamed or not feeling good enough? Because your inner critic believes that those feelings are dangerous. And so it created a strategy a long, long time ago. And the strategy kind of sounds like this. It sounds like, if I can just make this happen, I'll finally feel okay. If I can just get the next client, if I can just find that relationship, if I can just get to the next level of money, if I can just get everyone else to approve of me, if I can make sure that no one is upset or no one's disappointed, or if I can just make sure that other people's lives are working the way that they're supposed to, if I can just know how all of this is going to work out, then I'll finally be able to relax. Then I'll finally feel safe and at peace. But I want you to notice what happens. In that scenario, the dream becomes responsible for your emotional well-being. The dream does. The outcome becomes responsible for your peace. And that's when reaching turns into gripping. Now, I want to look at this through the lens of the mind method. The M step of the mind method is meet your inner critic. So I want you to think about something that you deeply want right now, something you're reaching for. Maybe it's a business goal or a career move or a new chapter, or maybe something in a current relationship, or you want a new relationship or some kind of project, some kind of vision for your future. And now I want you to listen carefully to the automatic voice in your head. What's it saying? Maybe it's saying, I have to make this happen. Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if I've missed my chance? Or what if people judge me? Or what if I'm not capable? Or what if this never happens? What if I never get there? And I want you to notice how quickly your mind turns desire into danger. See, the dream itself isn't creating the suffering. It's the story around the dream. Your inner critic takes something you want and turns it into something you need in order to feel okay, and then imagines the worst case scenarios that it's going to fail, and then you're going to be left feeling with things that are intolerable for that inner critic self to feel. And that's where the struggle begins. Now, the I step is to investigate the indication signs. Now, that means that your nervous system is always going to signal to you when your inner critic is driving the show. Now, this is where neuroscience becomes really important, because when your brain perceives a threat, and mark my words, emotional threats to your brain are the same thing as actual threats. And so that's why your brain activates a survival response, and the nervous system then becomes mobilized, and your thinking narrows towards potential danger. Your focus is literally only focused on what could happen. What's the worst case scenario? And when you are focused on the worst case scenario, you have no ability to access the part of your brain that's responsible for creativity. or to see possibilities, or maybe to see a whole new avenue that you can take to get to the life that you're building. So suddenly your entire life becomes organized around one thing. Make sure this works. And now your brain is primed to only focus on the potential dangers and the potential threat. And this becomes a vicious cycle because your nervous system and your brain actually create certain thoughts. So when you're feeling tension in your chest or tightness in your shoulders, right? Now your mind is going to glob onto that. And this is where overthinking, overplanning, overworking, that's where all of that comes from. And then it rolls into possibly difficulty with sleeping and trying to predict and control every possible outcome, and over-explaining and over-functioning and overly trying to please everybody, trying to control every variable. And most people think they're pursuing their dream, but when they're actually trying to escape those feelings and all of the uncertainty that pursuing that dream whips up. So there's fear there. There's fear beneath the striving. And this is where the work gets even deeper, because you may think that you're afraid of failure. You're not afraid of failure. You're not afraid of rejection. You're afraid of the emotional experience that you imagine if you fail or if you are rejected. I want you to hear that. The circumstance isn't the thing we're trying to avoid. It's always the feeling. And this is where the end step is crucial. The end step is to neutralize the never-ending message. Because that feeling that you don't want to feel, that disappointment, that shame, that sadness, that uncertainty, that vulnerability, that emotional experience is something that happened in your life a long, long time ago. And because early on in your life, your inner critic mind created a strategy to try to control life so that you don't feel that way, you don't trust yourself to handle those emotions. And that is why your inner critic mind becomes obsessed with trying to control the circumstances. Now, here's where it gets really wild. We actually start trusting the fear more than we trust our true, authentic selves. We trust the control more than we trust our capacity to actually risk feeling what we've been avoiding feeling for our whole life. And that creates the suffering, because underneath every fear is a deeper message. And it's the same message you've been defended against for your entire life. So for most people, that never-ending message sounds like, I'm just not good enough. Or, you know what? I don't feel important to people. I don't feel like I matter. I don't feel like I'm loved enough. I don't feel like I'm good enough to make this happen. Does that sound familiar to you? Now, because that message feels so unbearable, your automatic mind has spent a lifetime creating strategies to avoid feeling it. And some of those strategies include achieving more and working harder and staying busy and avoiding mistakes and just keep going and never stop moving. Don't feel. Don't celebrate your accomplishments. Just keep reaching for the next goal. Now, the issue is that none of those strategies actually go to the core wound that created those strategies in the first place. So all of that movement and striving and reaching and working hard only temporarily distracts you from that feeling, which is why life has a fascinating habit of continually bringing us face to face with exactly what we've spent our lives trying not to feel. So think about that for a minute, because You've reached for things that you thought would handle that feeling, and you've actually accomplished those things. And now you're on to the next thing that you think you need in order to not feel that feeling. But I want you to think about something. Have you ever noticed, if you look back on your life, that some of the most important moments in your life that define you and define your path were the things that you never would have chosen? Like a relationship ending, or a business challenge, or a door suddenly closing, a plan falling apart, something not working out the way you desperately wanted it to. And in that moment, your inner critic screams, "This is a disaster. This is awful. This shouldn't be happening. This means something terrible." But months later, maybe it's even years later, you look back and you realize, wow, that was actually the turning point. That was actually a crucial thing that had to happen. That was the moment I became someone different. That was the moment that life redirected me. So, what if the collapse was not a punishment? What if it was actually an invitation? What if that experience wasn't trying to break you? What if it was breaking apart the old identity that you believed you needed in order to be safe? Because that's what's really happening. So in the D step of the mind method, we are designing our life from our authentic self, not from our inner critic self. Now, what does that look like? It looks like pursuing what you want without gripping it. See, the authentic self absolutely wants the things you want. Your authentic self has the same goals and it takes the same action. It works just as hard, but it works from a completely different place. So your authentic self understands, I don't need this outcome to prove my worth. I don't need this outcome to make me okay. I don't need it to create my peace. I can deeply desire something without requiring it. I can fully commit without attaching my identity to the result. I can pursue what I want, and I can trust myself to handle whatever happens. I can actually let life unfold however it's going to unfold while I'm reaching for the very thing that I want. And that is freedom in this moment, not when you get everything you want. The freedom that you're longing for is trusting yourself enough that your emotional well-being is no longer dependent on getting what you say you want. So most people, when you think about trusting life, trusting the universe, most people think what that means is, I'm going to trust that everything is going to work out exactly the way that I want it to go. That's not trust. That's another form of control. So trust is knowing that you actually can't control what happens. And therefore, no matter what happens, you have the capacity to meet it when it happens. Trust is knowing you can feel failure and survive it. You can feel disappointment and survive it. You can feel the ultimate rejection and survive it. You can feel uncertainty. You can feel sadness. You can feel grief. You can feel loss. You can feel rage. You can feel anger. You can feel fear, and you can survive all of it. Because once you stop trying to avoid those feelings, you stop needing to control life. And once you stop needing to control life, something very remarkable happens. You become available for life. You stop avoiding the things that you thought would bring you the pain, and you begin to see possibilities in your life that your fear mind and your fear identity couldn't see. And this is when you become more present and you become more creative and you become more connected to other people. You become more connected to yourself. You become more resilient. And it's not because life changed. It's because your relationship to life changed. So I want to leave you today with a question. What emotional experience are you trying to avoid through the pursuit of what you want? What have you spent your life believing you cannot handle? Because that's where your freedom lives. Not in finally getting everything you want, but in discovering that you're capable of handling the very feelings you've spent your life trying to outrun. So the moment that you stop needing the outcome to make you okay, you become free to pursue that outcome from your authentic self. And paradoxically, that's the moment life begins to open in ways that you never expected. So your inner critic wants certainty, your authentic self wants aliveness. And if the life that you're longing for is created from the authentic self, you stop asking life to make you feel safe and you start trusting yourself to meet whatever life brings. So if you are interested in understanding how to use the mind method to design your life from your authentic self, you may want to consider joining my Mastering Your Mind community. And if you are someone that has had a longing, not just to transform your own life, but to be someone that creates transformation for others, the ICF Mind Method Certification Program might be the perfect path for you. So to find out about either of those programs, you can go to the link in the show notes or go to my website, masteringyourmind.com, and schedule some time to connect with me. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you on the next episode.